Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys coming by the channel to check today's episode out. And guys, today we're going to be talking about the one rod and reel combination as far as the reel and the rod action, the rod length that every angler needs to have. This is probably the most versatile setup that you can possibly use as far as covering a diversity of techniques. It's my favorite setup. I probably won more money on this setup than any other setup out there. So we're going to go over it into detail, and I'm going to sort of explain to you why every angler needs to have this particular outfit in their boat there or on the bank or wherever you're fishing. Also, guys, quick invitation. I'd just like to invite everybody to please consider hitting that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling. Free and easy to do so. If you guys also, if you're interested in becoming a channel member, channel members get extra videos that are not seen by the public every week, private videos, and some access to my email address. Just go to my YouTube homepage and click on the join button. You'll see there on the screen. And also, guys, anyone interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and just message me. So really appreciate you guys putting up with the plugs there. Okay, one of the things about rod and reels, guys, is there's so much out there to choose from. It's like there are so many different rod manufacturers out there. There's so many different actions, lengths, powers, all that type of stuff. It's super intimidating. And one of the things that you hear me talk about a lot on this channel is simplifying the rod actions that you had and having the rod lengths, because if you wanted to have a certain specific setup for every technique that you can use in bass fishing, dang, you'd have 20 different type of rod and reel setups. And I mean, who can afford that unless you're just independently wealthy? So I try to narrow it down to 3 or 4 of the main type of rods and reel setups that you need. And today what I want to talk about is my favorite, my number one that I think everyone should have, and that is a pitching and flipping stick setup. And I want to explain to you why that a pitching and flipping setup is way more diverse and versatile than just pitching and flipping with it. First of all, let's talk about the one that I use here, guys. I will link this in my Tackle Warehouse link if you guys would like to get a really good setup. This is the Megabass Levante alkys pitching and flipping stick. It's a 7-foot 10-inch rod. That's what you need when you're selecting one. Like I said, you need to have a rod that's 7.5 to 8 foot long. Based upon the manufacturer, some of them make difference. The Megabass model is 710. Also, guys, this is a really good price point rod. This rod's under $200. So, like I said, I'll put this exact rod on my Megabass or my Tackle Warehouse link in the description here. And then I couple it up with a 7-to-1 bait cast reel. This is that Abu Garcia Zata tact reel. I really like it. One of the reasons I like this is part of the proceeds when you buy one of these at Tackle Warehouse goes to our former military and first responders to benefit them. 7-to-1 reel ratio, big large handle, nice aerodynamic profile, fits really good in your hand, casts really good. So Megabass alkys flipping stick, Abu Garcia Zata tact. Although I do use a lot of reels, I just really like to support all of our responders and military with this reel. Okay, let's talk a little bit about why you want this specific action here. Okay, and we'll go over the techniques with it. When you're talking about pitching and flipping, one of the things that I see a lot of people that are just getting into the sport do is they try to get by with like a 7-foot rod for pitching and flipping. Guys, I can't tell you how many like on-the-water lessons I've done or co-anglers I fish with. I'll tell them we're going to go flipping and pitching, and they show up with a 7-foot, just a 7-foot medium heavy rod. That is not a pitching and flipping stick. You've got to have that extra 8 inches or so. That's why I prefer the 7-foot 10-inch model on there, because when you have a 7-foot 10-inch model versus a 7-foot or 7-foot 2-inch model, the 7-foot 10-inch model, it gives you a lot more control and power. It gives you more control on your pitch and your presentation. It gives you more power on your hook set. It allows you to control the fish better. It allows you to get your pitch and flip out further. So don't try to skimp. If you're going to get a pitching and flipping outfit, do not skimp and try to get a 7-foot or 7-foot 2-inch rod that's going to, serve as a lot of different things. You have got to delegate one rod as a 7-foot 10-inch flipping and pitching stick for your flipping and pitching. That's the main thing. Another thing that I like about this rod is one of the biggest problems you have with a lot of flipping sticks is they're too stiff on the tip here. And that's why I like this Megabass alkys. It's a stiff tip, but it still has some good parabolic bend in it. That parabolic bend, this is critical in landing the fish, because if you get a flipping stick that's like a broomstick that's too stiff, when you set the hook on that fish, a lot of times it's going to rip a hole in the soft part of the mouth here because it's so stiff. Plus, when you're fighting a fish with a stiff rod, it's not as forgiving and you're going to lose more fish. So you got to have this combination of stiffness and parabolic bend in your flipping stick to look for. Okay, now the 7'10", the obvious thing is for pitching and flipping. I do all of my pitching and flipping with it. I pitch all my jigs, I flip all my creature baits, all my plastic worms. I don't care if I'm flipping a little 4-inch ringworm, some little small bait, or if I'm fishing a little finesse jig, I'm flipping it and pitching it on my flipping stick. And then I adjust my hook set accordingly to the power and the size of the hook that I'm using in the lure. The reason I use that pitching stick, again, is efficiency. It's accuracy, efficiency, and control. So don't feel like you have to go down to like a 7-foot rod if you're using flipping and pitching a little small worm, or if you're flipping and pitching a little jig. You know, you can do it all on that. On this particular rod, I flip everything between, a 4-inch worm on an 1/8-ounce sinker up to a, creature bait on an 1.5-ounce sinker, and everything in between. And I'll use anywhere between, say 15 to, 50-pound test braid at times if I'm flipping. So that's why you want that for flipping and pitching. Now, the other diversity of techniques with this rod is wide ranging. This is one of my favorite rods, this pitching and flipping stick, to fish a big spinnerbait on. So if I'm fishing, like a 3/4 ounce or a 1 ounce spinnerbait, some type of really big, bait like that, I'm using it on this flipping stick. Because what happens is when you got this big honking spinnerbait with a big blade and a big wire on it, and you get a fish, you get a 4 or 5 pound bass that hits that big spinnerbait, you got a tremendous amount of hardware in the way. So that flipping stick, having that extra power, will help drive that hook into the fish. So all my big spinner baits are on that. Other baits that I use with it, all of my frog fishing, the frog fishing that I'm like the buzz toad fishing, like the, popping frog, any type of a frog, I use it on that flipping stick with braided line. Again, you can make a longer cast, more control, you got more power over the fish. Really good, deal for that. Another thing that I use with flipping stick a lot of times is I'll even use big crankbaits on it, and both square bill crankbaits and deep diving crankbaits. If you're using like one of those big 25-foot plus crankbaits with the big old honking lips on it, some of those are weighing, well over an ounce. So it's a perfect setup for a flipping stick with it. So I'll use a flipping stick like on those big Strike King 10XDs, big Megabass Deep 6s. Those big crankbaits are going to be really good with that. Also, another thing I do with it is on a big square bill crankbait. Sometimes I'll put a big square bill crankbait on a flipping stick, and I'll flip that square bill crankbait. I'll flip it like into dock slips. I'll flip it down the side of lay down logs. Anywhere where I have to put a crankbait down a real tight, narrow alley, I do it with the pitching and flipping technique, and that rod's suited perfectly with it. Another thing that works really good, guys, is your big swim baits and your glide baits are perfect for that flipping stick. Anytime that I'm using a big swim bait like that 8-inch Megabass Mag Draft or some type of a glide bait, those baits that weigh 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces, flipping stick is a perfect situation for those. You got the power of it, the distance, the length, the control, awesome setup for that. I use a football head jig a lot of times on a flipping stick. I'll put it on 15, 17 pound test line. With a flipping stick, I can make a super long cast out over those deep points. And if I get a bite at the end of the cast, that extra length of the flipping stick allows me to take that line up and get it in real good. And then you can't beat a flipping stick for an Alabama rig. Alabama rig is perfect for a flipping stick because you know how those Alabama rigs are. They're awkward to throw, they're big and they're heavy. And I use a flipping stick 100% of the time on my Alabama rigs, as well as my Carolina rigs. Carolina rig, again, you got a 3 or 4 foot leader out there. You got that thing it's awkward to cast, and that extra length of the flipping stick allows you to cast that Alabama rig really good. So you can see, guys, that a flipping and pitching stick is not just for flipping and pitching. It is literally probably the most versatile lure that you're going to have, versatile rod that you're going to have in your boat. And also, guys, that's what I throw my whopper ploppers and big buzz baits on a flipping stick. I'll put them on 20-pound test Sea Garden Bizex, and I throw my whopper ploppers and my buzzers on that big, half ounce, 3/4 ounce buzzers. Perfect for that. And again, any bait that you put on a flipping stick, you can cast it and you can pitch it and flip it. That's the beauty of it. It's like the flipping stick will allow you to make the longest cast, and it will also allow you to make the most accurate cast as far as flipping it and pitching it into tight areas. It's just the best. It's the best rod and reel overall for any technique out there. And a lot of people don't use them, guys. A flipping stick is probably the least used rod by the majority of bass anglers in the country. And that's because most anglers do not understand how, versatile they are. So if you're a flat build, live scope and weenie wormer, yeah, you probably won't be interested in it. But if you're a real bass fisherman and you want to take advantage and capitalize on the myriad of techniques that are available in fishing, get you one of those flipping sticks. And again, I'll link everything in my Tackle Warehouse link, guys. You can pick them all up there, and hope it helps you guys catch some. We'll talk later.